Quick reminder, there will be an interpretation. So just make sure that if you need the interpretation, make the swap so you can have that available for you. Nuevamente, recordatorio, tendrán interpretación. Por favor de cambiarle si lo necesitan en español. Another reminder, this event is being recorded as it has been in the past. Just be aware of that. It is a recording event. And I am here, Alejandro, as president of DPAC. We have Daniela here, our vice president, and we also have Robinson here, our secretary. This part, we really want to interact with each other. If you're obviously in the virtual, we'll give you guys some space there, as well as we'll be in here trying to interact. Thank you everybody for this morning for having some patience. We're having some bit of a technical startup, but we're here, and Happy New Year's as well. Let's start with that. Let's talk about these new years and our goals.
So if you'd like, those of you in the virtual world, you could answer in the chat, what's happening in your school site council meeting this month? Just to get a sense of what's happening. And those of us in the room can do a quick whip around inside, and then we'll come back together. Have you had maybe school site council with you?
So there is a question in the chat regarding the nature of the meeting.
We have all the meetings at the same time. Have you had, no, for the SSC meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Been that one
When?
last week.
How it? Who went? You?
No, I was not.
Oh,
Don't have any yet.
how was, have you heard?
So I'm gonna try to find a way to break the ice. We're a little bit quiet today in the morning.
Here we go.
A mom in the chat a question. And she asked, ¿alguien me puede decir para qué es esta junta? Para los padres. If we can let her
Can
know
somebody tell us what this meeting is? Yeah, what it's for and whether it is for all parents. And somebody says they believe it's for excused absences.
All questions are welcome. This meeting takes place multiple times a year. It is a meeting where us, the parents leader, that try to bring information and try to keep things together in the purpose of helping the district as parents leadership. It's not only just for us, it's also for the parents out there that are trying to stay not only engaged, but involved and understand what's out there and how they can participate or stay acknowledgeable on all resources. So these questions, it's beautiful that we have a question so simple because it brings an answer so much broad. Thanks for your question. So we'll continue to our next step, pretty much showing our agenda. We'll follow up with new information, California Association for Bilingual Education Conference opportunity, school site council updates and bylaws. And then we have our follow-ups, community schools updates, Spanish as a second language classes, English as a second language classes, uniform complaint procedures, in short, UCP updates. And then our next steps, we're still working on that stuff, but we promise to have some of those later on. some stuff will come up. Oh, very important. I believe that all leaders really get excited when we see CABE. So we're getting very, very close to CABE 2024. We definitely need parents involved. 5 parents per school side. They should be active members of ELAC or school site council on their school sites. Participants must share what they learn, and we're pretty much, it's very encouraged to not only to enjoy this CAVE event, but to bring it back home, because these few people have the ability to soak in everything and find a way to bring it back. There is no pressure on how you bring it back, but there is that part of us that we want to bring and share that. And there's many ways to do it. We'll have platforms to share that stuff, including this one. And word of mouth goes long ways as well. As you see other parents and parents have questions, we parents tend to be our best educator towards each other. Also, there is a deadline. That deadline would be February 2nd, which is right around the corner. If you haven't heard about this, sorry for the short notice, but then again, there's still a notice. Please register as soon as you can.
May I interject with how to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Just want to let you know, 5 parents per school site is what the district can pay for. Sites can send more parents if they choose to. The big thing for you, if you are a parent and you are interested in participating, you need to let your principal know, or your ELERT, or your community liaison all have access to the sheet, because if district is paying for your registration, then we will register you. If the school site is paying for your registration, they will register you. But we need to know who you are and who wants to go. And then as far as sharing what you learn, when we come back in March, you'll notice there is no DLAC. There is no DPAC meeting in February, because we want us all to go to Anaheim and learn at CABE, and then we'll come back in March and share what we learned. Thank you.
Thank you for your help. Do we have any questions on CABE? Nobody
Do
online?
we see any on the chat? No.
Is somebody asking about
So school site council updates and bylaws.
If you'd like, I can share this.
Oh, please. Please.
Okay, so big news. We are changing the cycle of approval for your school site plans. Normally, that happens in October. And if you have been on the school site council, when school starts in August, there's this mad rush to get your elections done and to hold the meeting and to approve it so you can send it to the board. And you may have noticed in that plan, a lot of the data is missing, because that data doesn't populate until it's made publicly available. And our SBAC and LPAC data typically isn't made public till around October. And then the dashboard data didn't populate until December, right before we went on break, and that's typical. So moving the approval date till May gives school site councils the opportunity to actually go through the entire process before you submit the document to the board. So that's exciting. And it means, I'm sorry, you're the one, can you, I want to review the 7 steps for developing the school plan, excuse me. Number 1 is analyzing student achievement data. You work through measuring the effectiveness of your strategies, identifying goals and key improvements, defining timelines, personnel, and expenditures, recommending it to the board. Then you implement your plan, you monitor implementation, and then new data comes along and you analyze it again and you measure the effectiveness of your strategies and you keep working your way through the plan. So backwards mapping, the board meeting for approval of our plans is May 23rd. We need to work our way back to what we need to get done. So if you would advance one, I think I have this animated. So in May, your school site council would recommend it to the board, which means in April, you need to make sure that all your expenditures are written out and clear for what it is you'll be doing in the new year. Which means in March, you want to solidify your goals and key improvements, which means in February, measure the effectiveness of your current strategies, and January, analyze student achievement data. Well, today is January 31st, so that makes it a little tight, but I am suggesting at your school site councils in your February meeting, you look at the newest data. What's the newest data we have? Does anybody know? Twain might have a lead on us because I saw it in the chat that you were planning on looking at your data.
Already data?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have iReady data. The children took their math and their reading assessments in September for the beginning of year assessment. And then in December, they took their mid-year assessment. So now we have data that shows the growth from September to March, December. The hope is, the goal is that there is growth, significant growth. So the idea would be to bring that data to your meeting to see, are the things we're doing working for our kids? If they are, let's keep doing what we've been doing. If they're not, let's say, for example, you had big hopes that the math achievement would show this big gain, and the growth has not been as much as you'd hoped. You have to ask some questions. One, are all students using iReady, doing the MyPath lesson? So first we have to look at usage. Then we have to look at how much time they're on it. Are they using the recommended amount of time? So those could be issues that could be fixed without changing any expenditures, just changing our practice. Or you might say, you know what, we're doing that, and yet we still need some additional intervention for our students. Have we put aside extra hours for intervention? Do we have an instructional aid that is targeting students who need extra support during the school day? So those are the kinds of conversations you would be having and fine-tuning your plan, getting ready for the May meeting. I'm going to pause there for a second. Oh, I see Myrna raised a hand. Myrna, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good morning.
Morning.
This is my child's first time in public school, and we're kind of excited, but I'm new. Can you give me a brief summary of what this meeting is about, please?
Sure. Thank you, Myrna. Well, Mirma, thank you. Welcome to our district, and thank you for raising the question. This meeting, this is our district parent advisory council. As Alex shared before, it's an opportunity it's open to all parents across the district to come and listen to initiatives that are happening in the district, give feedback about initiatives in the district, and we try to make a tight connection between what's happening at your school site. And at your school site, you have your school site council, you have your English Learner Advisory Council. Those meetings happen at the school site, and we hope and invite members of your committees to come to DPAC to share what's happening at your site, to learn from each other, to learn the latest and the greatest about how to run effective meetings and bring opportunities to your students, and then bring that information back to your school site. Does that help?
That's awesome. Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Please ask any questions you like. That's what we're here for.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I wanted to take a minute to talk about bylaws, because your bylaws, they're not required, but they're really helpful to have a functioning committee. And bylaws cover everything from who's on the committee, when do we meet, for how long do we meet, what do we do if someone who's elected doesn't show up for 2 meetings or 3 meetings? How often do we elect new officers? And can I sign on in kindergarten and I'm on the school site council all the way till my child graduates in 5th grade? Or do we require kind of an every other year turnover to give more parents an opportunity? That's something that you get to share. I brought samples ones for our group here, and then I'm going to switch with Alex here and share an electronic version for those of you who are online to take a look at this sample and just get a sense of, Is this how our school site council is running? Have I even seen my bylaws? I'm not sure we have bylaws. This is the time to talk through it. So let me, Alice, could you help me? There's a stack over there. Or Daniela, there's a copy. It's English and Spanish. It's the fatter packet with the pink, yeah, on top. And Alex, may I trade places with you? And I'm going to make it available on the computer. I'm putting the link in the chat. You have one, Alex?
No, I don't.
I have to grab the chat for you, or grab the link for you. It's live on my computer, but not necessarily on yours.
The principals and would get this at each school site as well, or?
Well, again, this is a sample,
Okay.
and
So they know.
many of your sites, you already have them, and they're functioning, and you review them every year. And some I'm finding out this year, not so much. So it's a good time for us to take stock. Where are we? Are we in agreement on them? And should we review them at our next meeting to make sure that they're actually working for us? Like one of the biggest ones is when we meet. How long do we meet for? Do we meet once a month? Do we meet more than that? Who can call the meeting? Who can cancel the meeting? Do we need to be so formal as to use Robert's Rules of Order? Or can we build consensus in a less structured way? So it really just has to work for your school site council. But this is an excellent place to start. And what, as you might see in the sample here, it looks sort of familiar, like in the duties of the school site council, it lists all the things we just talked about, right? We look at the data, we look at our strategies, we make some changes, we monitor, we keep moving through to make sure that it's working for our students. Then Article 2 moves to members. You can see who's on it. Now that is governed by law. It has to be even, parents and community and staff. And the smallest number you can have is 10. So you'd have 10 staff, I'm sorry, let's do the math. 5 staff, 5 parents. One of the staff has to be the principal. The other staff should be majority teachers, but you'd hope to have at least 1 classified. And then you have 5 community members or parents on your team. That's the rule. You decide as your bylaw the term of office. Is it 2 years? Is it 1 year? Is it anybody who raises their hand will take you? You all have to decide that. And, we'll be real. Sometimes we'd hope that 12 parents are all vying in a tight election, but sometimes we're just thrilled to pieces that 5 people raise their hands, right? One of the things that is happening at some of your sites is Section F, vacancy. Sometimes a family moves, or a mom said, I'm happy to serve, but now I got a job. My circumstances have changed. I can't serve. So you have to decide how you're going to fill that vacancy. Some sites will elect alternates in their first election. So let's say I've got my 5 parents in the room right here, okay? And Alex says, I got to go. But we also elected Scott in the back as an alternate. So I don't have to hold a whole nother election. I can just invite Scott to come now sit at the table and be our 5th parent on the committee because we already went through that election. So that is also one thing you can do to ensure continuity. So you're not trying to run an election in the middle of a school year, though that can happen. Then there's a section on your officers, what the chairperson does, vice chairperson, the secretary. You have, again, your terms of office. In this example, they're serving for 2 years. And sometimes that's really nice. We do the same thing here in our district level committee. We do 2 years because your first year, you're kind of getting used to it and you're learning the ropes, and your second year, you're a pro. And then you're starting to eyeball successors, right? Who can I help lift up and bring up? And actually, that's a good point to bring up because all 3 of my officers here are terming out this year. You're on your second year, right? So you can certainly put your name in if you want to go for re-election, but we also open it to others who might want to share and be part of it. And so you might start looking around your site there's that one dad, he comes to all the meetings, he's got really great ideas. Maybe I should, nudge him, or that one mom, or that one, clerk in the office. We should probably nudge them to apply. So these are things that you can think through. Removal of officers. So in this example, 2/3 vote of the members can vote out a member. Just one caveat, you cannot vote out your principal. Principal is the only mandated member. You cannot disregard the principal. But there's 9 other members, right? And let's say 6 of the 9 say, you know what, unfortunately, we're having difficulty with this one member, doesn't come. Or we're having difficulty with this one member, is difficult to stay on task and is taking us off topic, and we're not, whatever that is, it'd have to be 6 of the 9 that would vote that person. Hopefully we never come to that, but that is there sort of as a safeguard. So you're all holding each other accountable in the work that needs to be done. Then they have subcommittees. Some councils establish subcommittees. The only one that everyone must have is your ELAC. That's a subcommittee that has to report to the school site council. ELAC, for my friends who are new, our English Learner Advisory Council, focuses all their energies on supporting students who are learning English and need additional supports. That team must send up recommendations to the school site council. Some of your sites have merged the 2 committees. You voted, so school site council and ELAC are one and the same. The best practice, whether you're together or you're separate, is to always have an agenda item on your school site council meeting, ELAC, feedback, or ELAC report, just so they can share what is also happening in that committee. But you might have a different one. You might have a safety committee. You might have depending on your site, different committees that could also report to the school site council if that is what you want to do at your site. But again, that's a site level decision. It's not directed from here. And then we have membership, terms of office, the rules, quorum. Quorum is typically, you need a majority, right? So if you have 10, you have to have at least 6 people in the room, right? To hold your meetings and make decisions. You need to decide where you're having them. Notice of meeting, section C, it does have to be 72 hours in advance. That's not up to the school to decide. So if the meeting is on Thursday, you want to post the agenda on Monday, right? School site council meeting is coming. This is what we're talking about. Please be there. Just so everyone has the opportunity to decide if they want to join. Or I can't make it, but can you ask this question for me? Or could you give this feedback? Just so that they know what's happening. And then the meeting is open to the public. So even if the 10 elected members are here and have voting rights, 50 people could come in the room and listen, right? It's like a board meeting. The board is doing this business, but it's public. So anyone can come. We encourage you to come. And then you could sign it off saying, we've agreed to this. These are our members, and these are our bylaws for the 23-24 school year, or for these 2 years that we are the committee. I'm going to pause there because that was a lot. But I wanted you to have it, and I've given it to you in English, I just want to point out, and we also have it in Spanish so that all of our families can have access to what these are. I encourage you to bring them back to your school site councils. You may just check this against yours, or if you have not seen yours, you might say, hey, do we have some? Because again, it's not required. So no harm, no foul if you don't have them, but it's recommended. It's a good thing to have. It's like just your norms for meetings and how you do business.
This is the last update, or it's the same?
This is just a sample, just a sample. I took this one, we borrowed from LA County, and you can tweak it. I mean, like I said, there are some things that are automatic. The composition of the council, you don't get to decide, although you could go bigger. You could have 12 teachers or 12 staff and 12 parents if you had that much interest, but it must still be 50-50, right? And the 72 hours notice, that's a done deal. But where you meet, how often you meet, how you conduct your meetings, if you have subcommittees, that is at the discretion of each school site council. we have any questions in the chat or anyone raising their hand or want to unmute themselves and ask? How many of you have seen the bylaws at your site? Anyone? Not in the room. Okay, on the Zoom. I'll see this was a good topic to bring up, right?
Yeah.
To just review. And that's why we train every year and we want to make sure that we're
I have a question.
Let's
Just
do it.
like
Mhm.
scenario. What if a meeting's canceled and then it's not, they don't select another day? Do you just keep, pushing on them to have another meeting or?
That's a good question about scheduling meetings. What I recommend is in your school site council meeting, you decide your next meeting. Right? So before we leave, like today we're meeting on January 31st, and before you leave here, I always tell you when our next meeting is, right? This is when our meeting is. This is the time. Are we still good with that? Does that work for us? Do we want to actually lay out our agenda now? Do we have some idea, or we didn't finish, we ran out of time? Should we just move this on to next month's agenda? Okay. At this time of year, many of you are scheduling with Natalie Martinez because you have to do your school site safety plan. So you might say, oh, well, our February meeting, we've already booked Natalie, but there might be, 15 minutes of time we could bring that agenda item over. Are we all good? We all agree? Great. I'll see you on this date. Boom. And we set it up. Now, let's say something crazy happens, like Smith, that bizarre lockdown, right? Let's say that happened when you were supposed to meet. Clearly, it's going to be canceled. And then the principal would have to, or the chairperson might get together and say, let's float another date and see if the team can come. Okay, let's do it then. And that's how you keep it. But that's also in your bylaws, you decide how often you meet. Because I talked about in that last slide, all the things you need to do. The council decides how often you need to meet to do that. Typically, once a month. Some school sites do it in less. Some opt for more frequently because they want to dig into some of the data. So they might do it twice a month, or at least for a little while until they get it straightened out, and then they get into a once a month ritual. But we don't want to make it a full-time job either, because we're depending on the volunteering of our parents, and we're depending on teachers who are either coming before school or after school. And so we want to keep it at a manageable level. But we all want to understand the purpose. The purpose is to manage our Title I funds, only our Title I funds, for the purpose of supporting struggling kids. We want to change achievement of students. That's the only thing. So if your data tells you kids are really struggling in math, you're probably going to spend the bulk of your time talking about how to help kids struggling in math. If your data is telling you you still have 30% of your students chronically absent, you're going to spend a lot of time talking about how do we get kids to school? Because it doesn't matter what we're doing with math if the kids aren't coming, right? So your data is going to drive what that conversation is. So it's really important. And again, I say this is the month where we're looking at the iReady data because it's new. We're looking at your attendance data because Director of Student Support Services just put out, last semester's data. Here's our updates. Is our chronic absenteeism shrinking? If it's still here, we've got some issues. Let's take a look at it. Do we have a lot of office referrals? Do we have a lot of suspensions? We want to see that number shrinking. So what is happening at our site and how do we, as a council, support using those funds to improve conditions and learning for kids? Yeah, Robinson.
How many suspension we have last year?
Say that again?
How many suspension we had last year?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but you can ask your principal to share that with you. In the dashboard data, which just now populated into the school plans, I would suggest you ask the principal to bring the latest copy of your school plan, and you can look at that data and you'll see the dashboard data we have now compares 2021, 22 with 22, 23. So you'll see your actual, what are the numbers for 22, 23? And then what is the difference between 21, 22 and 22, 23? That's your growth. So in the area of academics, you hope it's going up. In the area of chronic absenteeism and suspensions, you hope it's going down. And so you can see that comparison and where you stand. And then you can use that and look at your more current data for this year and see is the trend going in the direction it should be.
So that has to be lies on the school plan, basically.
It's in the school plan. You can also go to, there's a website called Data Quest, and you can look up any school. Let's see if I can get it on here and you all can see it. Data can be, but it's off of the California Department of Education website. Forgive me, I'm working off of 2 different computers, so it's a little bit tricky. But if you go to Data Quest, here's the site, Data Quest. Okay, sorry.
Sorry about that. You guys don't have access to the school plan of last year?
Oh yeah, I can show you the school plan. Sure. Last year's school plan is on our Lawndale website, but our current plan for 23-24 with that new data in it has not yet been posted on the website. But hi, welcome. But you can ask your principal to print out copies or to give you an electronic copy to look at your meeting. Is it being, can you see it there? Okay. So let's say, for instance, so Robinson's question is, I want to know about suspensions, right? So I can go to this Data Quest, which is basically cde.ca.gov/DataQuest. I can say, I want to go to a school. I want to choose the subject. So I have enrollment data, assessment data, accountability data, graduation and dropout. So California School Dashboard is where you would see that, you're wanting to ask about suspensions, right? So I would submit, and then it'll ask me to put in the name of the school. So I'll do FD Roosevelt.
Are you showing something in the screen? Because we're just seeing bylaws.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare it, so hopefully you see it. Thank you for pointing that out. So where's the? Lost the Zoom. Where did Zoom go? Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Now I'm going to reshare. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, there we go. Okay, do you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for pointing that out. So I'm searching, so I'm answering Robinson's question. I'm going to look at my school and I've selected the dashboard from the Data Quest. If I click on it, then I can see how are we doing with chronic absenteeism, our suspension rate, our English learner progress, English language arts, and math. All of this data is now populated in your school plan. So you can see it in either place, but this is another place to go. And then within that, you get the school details. You can see your population, how many English learners, or the percentage of English learners, socioeconomically disadvantaged. And you can look at how we're doing in language arts, math, English learner progress, et cetera. And now remember these colors, and I encourage you to ask your principal to walk you through in more detail. But essentially it takes, how are we doing today? How are we doing last year? And what's the change, right? So blue means we grew and we're high, right? Yellow might mean we're doing okay, but we're sort of flat. We didn't grow. Orange might mean we're going in the wrong direction, right? Or we're really low, even though we've made some progress, but not enough. So you'd want to dig into these and really talk about it. Again, knowing that this is 21-22 compared to 22-23, and we are sitting in 23-24. So you want to look at this data, but as context, but you also want to look at current data to see, are things moving in the right direction? So it's a multiple pieces you want to consider.
Well, besides, how many months can we check that for this year? Just to be more accurate on comparison.
Well, our director of student support services shared attendance data and suspension data, I believe, with the principals for the first semester.
Oh.
Right, so we have the first semester of this year. We don't have January yet, but we have the first semester, so you can get a sense. And we're hoping that if, chronic absenteeism was your issue between 2021, 22, and 22, 23, maybe it's less of an issue now. Like something we're doing is changing that outcome for kids. We're hoping. If it's not, we need to have that conversation. Like, what else do we need to do, or get at the root cause, what is happening, so we can help kids get to school, right? Or math, or language arts, or English learner progress, wherever it is that there's a struggle. But also don't forget to celebrate where things are going well. Like, look at us, look at that growth we made in fill in the blank area. That's great. Whatever we're doing there, we should keep doing it and keep moving forward. And how can we leverage this to help in this area where maybe we're not doing as well? So you see why how often you meet and how long you meet matters, because if you really want to have deep conversation, you really can't knock that out in 30 minutes before school starts. That might be challenging unless you're meeting more regularly and you're chunking it. So you have to figure out a way to support your team in being able to have meaningful conversation about these topics and not feel rushed or out of time, or it's just not sufficient to do our job well. And that's where those bylaws are really helpful for you. So thank you for asking those questions. And thank you for pointing out that I wasn't sharing my screen well. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to the presentation and share again. See if you can see where we are. Let's see. Okay, are we all seeing the right, are we all seeing the bylaws slide? Oh, good. Okay. I feel like a technological octopus. I'm everywhere. Okay, so if we go to the next one, the other thing is how you run your meetings. I alluded earlier that you can do, and typically when I was a principal and I ran my school site councils, I went for consensus, right? We're working together, we have the same problems, we really want the best for kids. I didn't go as formal as Robert's rules. Robert's rules are like you see in a board meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion? Yes. Does anybody want to second the motion? Okay. Do we all agree? Let's vote. It can be very formal, and it makes conversation less free-flowing. But that might be really useful if you're trying to get through a lot of data and a lot of information in a short amount of time. Each site is different. So again, your bylaws determine how you run that. You as a team kind of have to figure out how you can best serve your kids, essentially, by getting to your work. And one thing that's also helpful to remember is the code of ethics, right? To remember why we're here. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to have to stop sharing and reshare, but I want to. And I do have a copy of this in the back. If you guys who, Daniela, would you mind grabbing for those of us who are in person? I do have a code of ethics here. It's sort of like a norm. It's our norms for a meeting, really. But it really gets at why are we here? Okay, I'm hoping, yes, okay, I think it's come through. So I think the number one bullet is one of the most important. Why are we here? To talk about the best interests of students. Not the best interest of the parents, not the best interest of the teachers, not the best interest of the principal, the best interest of the students. And if we all come with our own ideas and we come with our own opinions, but I think there's one thing we can always agree on, that the whole reason we're here is to serve those kids, right? So if we can all agree on that, we can work out anything else. So this code of ethics is useful if you find your team is not functioning well. You might want to pull this out and say, hey, are we all presuming positive intentions, which is that I believe Gabby's here to serve kids, not to serve Gabby's best interests? Do I believe that Julie's here to serve kids? And can I operate from that assumption and not that Julie's mad because she didn't get fill in the blank and she's here to complain? That's not going to serve our interests, right? So it talks about just recognizing the respect, the integrity of each person, respecting each other. Robinson and I can disagree full bore on a topic, but we attack an idea. We never attack each other, right? And so that's the type of group we want to make sure we are fostering at our site. So this is just a nice way to kind of start out your meeting.
Outline.
Yeah, just kind of like, these are our guardrails. Like, this is how we're going to behave in our meetings. And again, this is a sample. You might at your site decide that you have some extra things you want to add, or a couple of these things don't really apply, but you're going to, tweak it, or you can just adopt this one as is. But it's a good place to start to make sure that, and sometimes we just need a reminder, like, hey, Julian Robinson, I get it, you don't agree. Bottom line, there's 300 kids over here that need this service. We need to come to a decision, right? So we need to come to something that we can both live with to help these kids. And again, the data is our best source of information, right? Not my opinion, but the data showing that it's working here, it's not working here. What's happening here? Let's investigate and try to take our opinion hat off and just look at it objectively as to what's happening. So I encourage you to use this, to share it, adopt it, massage it, make it your own. But I think it's a good place to start to make sure that your meetings run in a civil discourse. Again, remembering our whole goal is what? First one, best interests of all students. Okay, thoughts or comments on that while I'm sharing and resharing and unsharing? Or questions? Anything in the chat coming through? Okay, then come back because we have 12 minutes and many other things to talk about. Again, just a reminder, our meetings fall under the Green Act, which means it's public, and you need to post your agenda 72 hours in advance. And again, I'll admit, I fail on this regularly, posting it the full 72 hours. Our goal is to have it as early as possible. Again, your best method, decide on your agenda before the meeting closes so that it's really easy to post it because you don't have to call anybody 3 days before the meeting. It was already decided, right? You just put it out there. Again, you have to say where and when and how long it'll be going so that everyone knows what that meeting is about and what its purpose is. Okay, that is my spiel on school site council before we move on to other things. Are there any questions, wonderings, comments about school site council at this point? Yes.
For my school, FDR, I joined the school site council and volunteered to be the vice chair. And I haven't been able to meet with my principal or anything yet, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. I just know that I'm supposed to be here.
Okay, well, first check, you're here. That's good. That's good. But typically, the chairperson and the vice chairperson help set the agenda with the principal. If you do it in your meeting, you don't even have to do anything outside of the meeting, right? And then the other job is helping facilitate the meeting, right? So in the school site council, the chairperson typically opens the meeting, welcomes everyone, kind of helps try to keep it on time, moving through the agenda items. If the chairperson can't be there, vice chairperson is. And that's essentially it. And then you have a secretary who's taking minutes. And it's pretty low key. And if typically, like you see here, your principal weighs in heavily to help, right? Like, here, I'll help you with the slide deck. I'll help you get it going so that really we can just focus on the actual discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad you came to get the answers. That's awesome. All right. So if we're good for now, all All right, I'm going to shift to community schools just with an update. If you remember, the last time we met, I shared with you that we are applying for the community schools grant at every site. I showed you the video of what the Oakland Unified School District looks like, who already have the grant. And essentially, it's an opportunity to apply for funding to enable wraparound services for our kids. It extends the school day. It allows for mental health services and medical services and tutoring services to be additional ones to be brought to our kids. And then from that day forward, surveys started going out. You should have all received a survey invite to fill out. At FDR, what do you think is the most important priority for this? At Adams, what is the most important priority? So what we have now is data. Now, this is just from one school site. I'm just showing you an example. This is not what the district as a whole selected, although I'll say there are a lot of similarities across the sites. So the first question was to rank order the top 5 family services that would be most beneficial to families. Overwhelmingly, affordable spring break and winter break childcare rose to the top, as well as food assistance and affordable childcare. Again, this is one school's example. I would encourage you to go back to your site and ask to see the results for your school. Another question was about workshops for parents that would be most beneficial. There were a lot that were highlighted, from college preparation to technology, parenting and positive discipline, child development and behavior, social emotional learning. Thanks for coming. So I look at that and go, my to-do list is very long to make sure that we have all these workshops for parents, right? Because parents want the information. So schools are using this information to help craft their applications for community schools to bring these additional services. Somebody want?
I think they don't
Oh,
know that
just
they're
accidentally
muted.
unmuted. Okay. Another good news thing I wanted to share is our Spanish as a second language classes have begun. Our very own Brenda Veronica, who's our vice president of DLAC, is teaching on Mondays via Zoom from 9 to 10. For roughly 10 parents have joined so far who are learning Spanish on Monday mornings. And on Fridays, there's an in-person class at Mark Twain. Parents also learning. And what was fun at our DLAC meeting 2 weeks ago is we had parents who were taking the Spanish classes and parents who were taking the English classes, and everybody got to share what they were learning. So we're building your dream, Robinson, our multilingual community, right?
That's not here.
We also have the next round of ESL classes for parents is starting up. We have a Monday, Wednesday class at FDR. It has been continuous for the last 3, we're up to level 3 now. There's 14 spaces available in that class. At Green, we have levels 1 and 2. There's 10 available spots in that class. And we've worked with El Camino. They are now offering an evening class because many of our parents said, I would love to take ESL, but I work during the day. So how's that going to help me? So now there is an evening class via Zoom that is being offered for us that parents can register for. So your community liaison sent this out to all of our English learner parents, all of our newcomer families, with this link at the bottom so that they could say, I'm interested, so that we could make sure we can support with helping them get registered. Because ultimately, parents have to register as El Camino students, and then they will be moved into this class, free textbook, community building. Our parents who have participated have loved it, and we hope to just keep growing it. And maybe we'll add another language, Robinson. We'll get in, to build our multilingualism as opposed to just bilingualism. But, we're taking it step by step,
Julie, we do have, not a question, but Carol Sillett asked if we can give a little more information about the Spanish class.
Sure. Our Spanish class, parents have been asking since I've been here, I think, for the last 5-6 years. And I think I saw Nikel on here if you want to chime in. But this particularly came from parents in the dual immersion program who don't speak Spanish, who have kids coming home with homework in Spanish. And I really want them to be in the program, but I'm realizing my limitations and how to support my child in Spanish curriculum. So they have asked for that. Now, this is not exclusive to parents with children in dual immersion. Like our good friend Sunny Tamakar, you can see there in the bucket, he's joined. He does not have a child in dual immersion, but he wants to be able to communicate better with his neighbors. So he'd like to learn Spanish. So we're encouraging that. And Brenda is a Spanish as a second language teacher, certified in Mexico. That's what she taught before she came here, and she has volunteered her services to bring that to our families. And that is something that we're hoping to build on as the wellness center opens and as we get this community schools grant, hopefully. We know, because we've heard and we've seen you, got a lot of talented parents out there who might want to also offer their skills to help our kids, help our families, help our parents learn additional languages or additional skills. So this was our first foray into parents teaching parents.
And they don't need to register anything. They'll just show up on the.
They just, we had sent out a form just so they could sign up so we could get a sense of how many. Because Brenda is hoping in a language class, you want to do a lot of practice talking. So you don't want 100 people there, right? Because it can be overwhelming. So she's trying to keep the class to around 15 for each one. We haven't filled the classes yet. So if there are more who are interested, we encourage you to reach out. And the, yeah, your ELERT or your community liaison can connect you to that if you're interested.
Okay, and if we're interested in doing it on Zoom from that 9 to 10 a.m. With Brenda, how do you say that we need to sign up?
Do you know who your community liaison or your ELERT is at your site?
No, my child is at FDR Elementary.
Okay, so your community liaison is Melissa Pineda, and your ELERT is Andrea Carr. Either of them can connect you to signing up for the class.
Okay, from 9 to 10.
And wonderful that you want to join. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
FDR is really representing today. I also, you know what? I will, oops, I can put in the chat for you the link that's hard to see here. So that you can click on it now and you could just fill it out. It would save.
Okay, that would be good.
Just trying to manage my screen sharing and my, let's see, where did chat go? Chat. Oops. There we go. Okay, so what I've just entered into the chat, that's the link to sign up and show your interest in the Spanish language class. Oh, wait, or was that the English class? Sorry, that was the English class. It's the wrong one.
Okay.
I'm going to have to, you know what? Do me a favor, put your name in the chat so I can grab it, and I will ask Andrea or Melissa to reach out to you.
I think there's
Okay, I'm
several
putting it now.
interested in the
Yeah.
chat for the class.
Okay. It is not only for Mark Twain parents. It just, we started with the dual immersion schools. So we originally reached out to Twain and Mitchell and Rogers, but it is open to any parent as long as space allows who is interested in learning Spanish. I will encourage my community liaisons and ELERTs to send that around again. My apologies, I gave you the English one, which was not what you asked for. But in case anybody wanted the English, it's in there now. And we'll get you the Spanish one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and here again, for those going for the ESL class, the English class, it actually requires signing up as an El Camino student. And our community liaisons have become quite adept at registering parents for classes, so they can help you with that. And they have a person on site there, Maria, who, if you say, I'm from Lawndale and I want to sign up, she will help you. And they have just wonderful services there, so I encourage you to check it out. Okay, and the last thing is the Williams complaint procedures updates. I shared this with you at a previous meeting. We had to make some updates because some of our language was out of date. So you were sent an email from Human Resources with an update. All staff was sent with an email. Our handbook has been updated, and we're required to make sure we notify every one of our committees that we have made updates. So here's a picture of the handbook. This is the Spanish one. I have copies in the back here. I don't know if you've handed them out. And the link here is on the Lawndale website. And I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare so you can see. Where'd the website go? There we go. Okay. So if I share again. If you go to the Lawndale web page, you open it up and it reminds you of enrollment because February 1st, dual immersion enrollment opens up, kindergarten enrollment opens up. Tomorrow's a big day, getting ready for the new school year. So if you've got friends, you've got 4-year-olds at home who are getting ready to come to kindergarten in the fall, now's the time to start signing them up. And if you're interested in dual immersion, now's the time to fill out the application. But I brought this up to show you that the parent and student handbook is here. And you have the English version and you have the Spanish version. You can click on it and download it and you can read the updates. But I just wanted to make sure that I give you another reminder that they're there. And uniform complaints are generally if you feel that either you or your child are not receiving services that you should. The example I always give is you are a parent of an English learner and your school is not offering English learner services. That would be a complaint. That would come up to the district office and we'd say, hey, what's happening? The school isn't offering English learner services. Let's get that fixed. And we fix it and we resolve it. It holds us accountable to providing the services we should. So I just wanted to make sure that you had that. And I swear, this is my final stop share and reshare because we're coming to the end because I realized we're 3 minutes over. Thank you so much for coming, all of you who did. I know we are competing with tours at Mitchell today, tours at Adams today, and you came to my meeting. I'm flattered. Just grateful that you came, those who could, to share with your team that's out at the other tours, learning about our sites. That's how we have teams, right? So we can all share the wealth. And we will close with, I will turn over to our illustrious president to close our meeting out.
All right, everybody, to conclude the meeting, just a quick reminder on our next meetings. DLAC will be hosting March 13, APAC will be hosting March 14, and DPAC, our group, will come back in March 27.
And as a reminder, why are we waiting so long? Because what's happening in February? CAVE is happening in February. So talk to your school site, see if you've got 5 parents going so that you all can get new information and share it. And that's what we'll talk about in March.
And once again, thank you everybody for being here with us. And we'll see you definitely in the next meetings. All of them if possible.
Thank you, team. Have a great day.